Hey, what's going on, Los Angeles? What's up, Ramley? Welcome to the Rams Skinny here on the LAFB network. We are Los Angeles Sports, and we are talking all things Los Angeles Rams today as the league annual meetings are happening down in Florida. Some fun tidbits from McVay, from Les Snead out of that. We'll do a little bit of spin that into some draft talk as well, but plenty of news to get to today in what is known as April Fools, the 1st of April, but we're not fooling anyone right now. But my man with the mostest, Mr. Skinny T, what's up, brother? How was I guess it's not really the weekend anymore, but how was the weekend treating you?
Well, I was doing some coverage over the weekend because you were celebrating your daughter's 5th birthday. So happy birthday to Mia for sure.
Thank you.
With a beautiful Barbie party that was fantastic. But yeah, yesterday it was just about rest. I watched a movie, read a little.
Nice.
Yeah, I wanted to shout you out because you were talking Jackson Dart for the last month or so, I would say, and finally the national media is catching up and talking about how the Rams should go out and draft Jackson Dart.
Isn't it funny how that happens? Like on no one's radar, and then all of a sudden now, little by little, more and more of the national pundits are linking Dart to the Rams. I don't know if that's because something's leaked out of Rams camp, which we'll talk about today, actually, or if it's just an obvious fit. Like, to me, it's such an obvious fit. He's a talented player. It wouldn't feel like a reach at 26. Plus, he gets to sit a year or two, depending how long Stafford wants to be here. Is not rushed into it. So, yeah, it's good. Sometimes we just got to be first on things, and it's good for the national media to finally catch up to what we know as the most influential Rams podcast, as we like to say, right?
Yeah, I even saw somebody writing about he didn't credit me, but Travis Hunter up or trade up. So I don't know.
I remember you sent me that. Like, there's no way he did that without seeing either your article or our podcast. Like, there's no way that someone else thought of that, in my opinion. He just didn't want to credit us.
And which is fine. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I mean, this year is a different kind of year for the Rams. I was thinking about this morning. We think we know what they're likely to do, the positions that they're likely to go after. I think everything, even more than last year, is just up in the air.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's a time of change.
And I think there's also not like a big glaring need. Like, last year going into the draft with the retirement of Aaron Donald, I mean, there was just a glaring, gaping need on the defensive line, whether it was edge or interior. Like, either way, they needed it because Aaron Donald filled both those roles, and they didn't do anything in free agency, like literally not a thing to address it, which was driving us insane. So it was just obvious at some point, whether it was first round, second, whatever, they had to go out hard after those positions, and they did in the first and the second, trading up to get Fisk. Whereas this year, like, yeah, they have a need at linebacker for sure. Like, that's the most glaring need. They need more depth in the secondary or a true CB1, but there's not like that glaring need. Like, we talk a lot, which we'll talk on this show about, you need a quarterback for the future, but there's not just like, okay, like this is an absolute must this draft. They don't really have that. I think they did a good job in free agency of kind of filling a lot of that, bringing back pieces. Obviously they were a really good team last year, a play away from the NFC Championship game. So yeah, I agree with you. It makes it much more interesting because like there's so many different ways they can go with this.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
So,
and even with that defensive thing last year, they were willing to forego that and get Brock Bowers.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the easy fit and the kind of revisionist history of all the draft stuff. It doesn't play out like that necessarily. That was the most surprising thing about last year was that when that video came out, then they were desperately trying to go get Brock Bowers, which they wouldn't have with no Jared Verse. It would have been comfortable with living in that world. So
I think what I love,
no assumptions, people.
None. I think what I love about the Rams, how they do things, and I'm not saying this that they're being like careless. I'm not trying to iterate that by any means. But they operate like, just from the outside looking in, like, because they know it's not like they're playing with Stan Kroenke's money, right? I mean, then every organization has this. You have an owner that kind of pays for everything. Your job, obviously, like in any business, right? Like typically outside of if you own your own company, like you're doing a job for someone else. But it's like they work with that mentality of like, we're playing with house money here. Let's just go have some fun and F some S up and just like and throw caution to the wind. And they do it in a very strategic and smart way. And obviously that's why they've been one of the best franchises in this McVay era. But they don't operate like so many teams operate so safely. And by operating safely, they're almost more detrimental in what they want to accomplish. And you have other teams that take big swings, but their big swings just fail miserably, i.e. the Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson. You can go down the list of like big swings that have failed. And it's like the Rams, they don't even seem like big swings because it's just the way they operate. They're just always swinging for the fences. And so when they miss a swing, no one even remembers it because they already have taken 3 or 4 more swings since then. They're just playing with house money. Makes it so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we were going to start the show off with Kyren Williams, but I think we should move the quarterback drafting talk and what Les Snead had to say about that up to the top, since we're kind of right here in that vein anyway.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Real quick before we do that, show is always brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag today. All the best money lines. Baseball is back. All those game spreads. Baseball is kind of a hard one to bet on, but hey, you can do it at BetOnline. Basketball and hockey, both with the playoffs right around the corner. We may have 3 LA teams in the playoffs: Lakers, Clippers, and the LA Kings. So plenty there. And then obviously the draft. I'm sure there's odds, and I'm not just sure. I know there's odds on quarterbacks, where they're going to end up. Will the Rams take a quarterback in the first round? You can do all of that at BetOnline. Oh, and by the way, March Madness going on. Final Four is set. It's funny. I haven't watched March Madness since the first 2 days. Those are like my favorite days because of all like the craziness. There you go. Women's, which is crazy to me. Women's first Final Four. I had no idea. Would have never guessed that.
They had a different setup before, and they did win a championship in that, like 1979 or something like that, but it wasn't the format.
Yeah, I just insane when you wrote it. I'm like, wait a minute, is this right? Like, do we need to fact check? Like, first ever Final Four for women's UCLA. But anyway, all of that can be done at betonline.ag, where the game starts. Tell them the LAFB network sent you. So Les Snead had a little quote out there about his thought process on selecting a quarterback. Do you have it in front of you? Do you want to read it?
Yeah, I do. So he says, and this is via Jordan Rodriguez of The Athletic. She's out there at the league meetings, so I'm stealing from her. Always open to drafting a quarterback, Snead says. Usually another team who gets into that more serious level usually drafts that player earlier than we would. Then he goes on to say, if a team really thinks that player is their next quarterback, it's not like they're going to go. It's not like they're going, hey, let's wait till the middle of the second round. Let's do it now. If the right guy fell to 26 and maybe he's the right guy for another team, they might want to move into the first round and draft that guy. So maybe that is better for the Rams, that picking that right guy, trading back, that is. Mm-hmm. That's how to honestly answer that question. And then to be honest about the dishonesty, if we're really looking at a quarterback at number 26, we would probably say an answer like that.
Snead's quotes are always like, they sound fine when he's saying them, but trying to like translate them and transcribe them is very challenging.
Yeah. Same thing with Jim Harbaugh too.
Oh yeah.
He jumps all over the place.
All over the place. Yeah, Sean McVay obviously would love, but getting Harbaugh and Snead in a room together would be like, what is going on right now?
I think those two guys, even though they're both weird in their own right, they don't, I don't think they see the world the same. I think they're from different planets completely. Yeah. And neither of them are from Earth, I think.
Yeah.
In a great way. In a great way.
One from Venus, one from Mars, I guess. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you take from that? I mean, he's saying, we want to basically, if, a team wants to come up 26 and take a quarterback, we would rather take that trade back than kind of stretch and reach for a quarterback at 26.
It sounds like Les Snead is starting his campaign for the 2026 California governorship or whatever the next election is,
right.
which I would 1,000% vote for Les Snead. I wouldn't even bat an eye. That would be my vote. But like that was such to me like a political answer of just like talking in circles, like not really giving an answer, just like a lot of words that kind of sound decent and sound like he's answering, but really is just giving an answer to every angle. Like, oh yeah, we would take a quarterback. We're always looking at quarterback. But if someone gives us an offer because they want a quarterback more, if that's best for us, we're going to do that. But if we like the quarterback there and we want to build for the future, we'll do that. Like, well, yeah, common sense. You're always going to do what's best for you. So I didn't take a lot from it, based on trying to read between the tea leaves and what they've kind of put out there. Also, as much as I think if Dart falls to 26, it makes sense. It still seems like trading back is the most obvious answer they're going to do. Now, if we're trying to decipher exactly what he said, if no team behind them desperately, and we're just talking if Dart's at 26, if no team behind them desperately wants to move up for Dart, then I think he's saying like, yeah, if no team really wants to give up capital to come where we are and we like the quarterback and we can see a future, then we'll take the quarterback and not settle for a cornerback or a defensive lineman or a receiver or a tight end, and whatnot. So that's just what I'm thinking. He's just talking in circles there. I don't know exactly. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think it reveals a consistency in their thinking, which is, there's a strategic advantage to an organization like the Rams, basically shorting kind of what the rest of the league believes, right? So the rest of the league believes trading up for a quarterback is absolutely the way to go in some instances. We've seen it, every few years there's a team that makes a big trade into the top 5 for a quarterback because, as we all know, and Les Snead said it, later on in that session when he says, if you've got a quarterback, you've got a chance, and we've got a really good one, right?
Yep.
So, the question for me is, what's the plan at quarterback? This has been my question for at least 6 months, if not more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a year, I would say.
Yeah, and we still don't have an answer for that. And it comes down to, if you want to draft if you want to take a chance on one of these guys in the first round, it's going to be a reach. I think a lot of the grading out there would put Jackson Dart probably smack in the second round, but Les Snead is out here saying exactly the opposite, which is they're not going to stretch like that. They're not going to reach like that. And it's like at a certain point, you gotta reach for one of these guys because you got to have a good one to win. And if they're not putting themselves in position in the draft to do that, Stafford just fell in their laps, really. Like there was some skill that he wanted to play for a guy like McVay. There's all of that, but he was disgruntled. The Lions were kind of changing their direction. He was ready to find a new home, and it just happened. And they had the draft picks to line that up. And it's like those kind of circumstances don't come around that often. So it's like, now if they don't do it in the first round this year, what's the plan? They're going to win now mode. They're not going to be low in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to trade up an incredible amount? So this quote, in what it does not answer, is there is no plan. I know they have a plan. I know they have their eyes on things, but they have to, at a certain point, go away from their, normal, way of seeing quarterbacks and reach and grab one. I think that's the only way. Otherwise, they're just relying on a situation like Stafford again to fall in their laps. And that just does not happen. Maybe Joe Burrow's going to get so pissed off in Cincinnati, maybe, but very, very unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's like there are always going to be veteran quarterbacks available, but not potential future Hall of Famers. Like, we just saw this offseason, Geno Smith gets traded from the Seahawks to the Raiders. Like, sure, Geno Smith has revitalized his career, fine quarterback. I don't think anyone's confusing him for Matthew Stafford, especially at the time when the Rams traded for Matthew Stafford. And we'll see how Geno does, reunited with Pete Carroll in Vegas. But it'll be interesting, to see how much onus they put on that future and how much they do like the options available. I saw another, Bill Barnwell of ESPN does an annual mock draft. I wrote about it yesterday of every, it's not even like an official mock draft and picks. It's just a trade every team could make. And it's all like, hypotheticals. And, I don't even know if there's any inside information. It's just kind of his thoughts, kind of like what we are doing here. But he had the Rams trading up with the Broncos to 20 to take Jackson Dart because the Steelers sit there at 21. And if Dart or Shedeur Sanders falls, if someone's available, I mean, the Steelers kind of have to take a quarterback. There's still rumors that they might sign Rodgers, but that's a 1-year thing. And so it's funny that I think this is kind of the funny thought process that maybe fans don't want to think, because when you have a first round pick, you want to use it on someone that can help you right now win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But the idea of the Steelers, even if they sign Rodgers, taking a quarterback is not far-fetched. I think most would say that's the smart play because Rodgers is only there 1 year. But most fans, at least, maybe not people that cover the team, but fans for sure, would say the Rams taking a quarterback would be a wasted pick because you have Matthew Stafford. But in reality, you technically have Matthew Stafford for 1 year. They're in really a similar boat to the Steelers, and I think the Rams obviously have a better team than the Steelers as it is right now, and obviously they have Matthew Stafford, and Rodgers isn't even in Pittsburgh yet. But if you really align those thought processes, each team should be in play for a quarterback in reality, if they don't want to end up in purgatory or just have some luck fall their way. So I don't think they're going to trade up to 20. I can't see, based on what Snead is saying, that they'll trade up for their quarterback. But I also think that if he falls, if Pittsburgh skips on him, or if two guys fell, so one of them then ends up falling to 26, I think it would make sense. I mean, you look at the Broncos last year when they took Bo Nix, everyone called it a huge reach. They were getting crucified by where they took Bo Nix. 1 year removed, no one's saying that. And everyone's saying, like, what a home run pick. Maybe the steal of the draft. They got him back at 12 or 13, wherever they picked. So this idea of reaching on the most important position, like the first part of his quote said, like, if he's your guy, he's your guy. We're not going to wait to take him. Just like Braden Fisk last year, right? Braden Fisk was considered a reach when they traded up. A lot of people were like, whoa, they gave up a second to move up to take Fisk. No one's saying that now. Fisk was unbelievable last year and worth every penny of that trade up. So if you see a fit for your team, you make it happen. But I don't know what that's going to look like.
Yeah. And I'm going to lay out two examples where it worked and one example where it's not working. So Green Bay Packers, Philadelphia Eagles, both drafted quarterbacks, considered reaches, head scratchers a bit. Both are currently sitting on franchise quarterbacks. Eagles just won a Super Bowl. Packers have been to the playoffs with Jordan Love as a quarterback. Now, on the other hand, you look at the Saints and what they didn't do behind Drew Brees. And they're in that purgatory section now. And once the vaunted New Orleans Saints under Mickey Loomis and the draft hero that he is, and this fantastic coaching staff and organization, just a few years ago, that's what people were saying. And now it's like, we don't know what they're doing. They're just out there wandering in the wilderness. They're, I guess, Derek Carr. And now who are they going to draft in this kind of, 11th pick or whatever, or 9, 10, somewhere, wherever they are? Like, it's not that far away and I believe, I don't want to compare GMs, but Les Snead's very smart. Sean McVay is a great coach. We don't know how long he's sticking around, but they have that going for them. But this question, it's hanging out there. It's hanging out there, man. Yeah. And nobody wants to see the Rams as the next Saints. These things happen, like once the quarterback's gone, the franchise kind of goes the way of whichever direction, that situation goes. It's just, it's such a fine line. And that's why I keep hammering on it. It's like, everybody, they're going to be fine. There's so many examples. There's more examples of teams not planning for the future. Tom Brady leaving the Patriots, like it's pretty dramatic.
And they're on their third coach already since he left.
Yeah, there you go. And he goes to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay then picks up Baker Mayfield. They're kind of back in the conversation. So it's like, there's got to be, I've said it too many times already.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it comes down to, like, if Stafford and the team agreed and Stafford's like, I want to play 3 more years. I'm all in. You don't got to worry about me. And the Rams said, okay, yeah, we feel comfortable with that. Then it's different, right? Then it's like, okay, why draft a quarterback when you have a 3-year commitment? But it's a 1-year commitment. And remember, guys, we were 24 hours away, basically, from Jimmy Garoppolo being the starting quarterback this year. I don't care what anyone says. Sure, he could win some ball games. You're not winning a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. He had been to a Super Bowl. Like, it's just, I don't see that happening. Maybe you get lucky. Maybe you get that, like, Nick Foles, that, that Trent Green, that some of that backup luck in that one single season, that backup magic, but not likely. And so it was that close to being a reality if both sides didn't kind of come to terms with Stafford and the Rams. And next year they're going to be in the exact same boat. And do you want to have this negotiation again, or would you rather have potentially a franchise QB that had sat a year in the system behind Stafford, learning all the ropes, that, hey, if Stafford wants to come back, you say, okay, yeah, we're fine with him sitting 1 more year and you come back. But if it gets into this, like, stalemate again, you have a good option to be like, okay, we got our guy. We're moving forward. Similar like what we saw with the Packers and Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love and whatnot. So the biggest question, this will be the last thing I say because we always spend too much time on quarterback talk, but it's fun. It's, it's the most interesting because it's the most important position. But the other side of this comes, like, let's just say without a trade happening, when you get to 26, we'll just use Jackson Dart as an example. If Dart is there, because everyone will say, like, you've got to take someone that can help your team right now. The question will be is there a player available at a position that will do that? Because for every Jared Verse, there's a Tutu Atwell. I know Tutu Atwell, I know he was second round, but for every Aaron Donald, there's a Gray Robinson they took second overall. Like, there's no guarantee that who you take at a position of availability will actually amount to anything. Like, yes, you're giving yourself better odds because that player can potentially play, whereas the quarterback is absolutely going to sit behind Stafford. But there's no guarantee that happens. And then you're potentially without a quarterback and you took a player that has very little impact on your roster. So yes, the hope is that you always get a Jared Verse that comes in and wins Rookie of the Year, that you get a Braden Fisk, that you get a Kobie Turner, guys like that. But there's also a very high likelihood that you can get a Tutu Atwell, or on the Chargers side, Quentin Johnston, who they took in the first round receiver, who still, as fans, want him out of the building. So that's what makes the draft so interesting and fun, but also so challenging, is those are those tough questions that is, what do you value and how are you valuing it? And simply saying, oh, we just want a guy that can contribute right away. That's not the right answer. It's how that player fits in and how will they contribute and will they have an opportunity to contribute. And obviously then you have to see it on the field. So yeah, that's the last thing I'll say on that. I don't know if you have any last point.
No. Yeah. It's always a coin flip in the draft, every time after all the draft picks, people go pick through the film and find all the highlights. And this guy's a beast. This guy's gonna imagine this guy next to this guy. It's gonna be incredible. And we're a couple of years removed from a terrible draft, I would say. A couple of terrible drafts back to back. I mean, if you want to get mean about it.
Yeah. All right, let's talk Kyren Williams a little bit. We talked about him before about what the Rams are going to do if a re-signing is happening. It could be going on as we speak. This morning was reported that McVay and Snead were going to meet with Drew Rosenhaus, which is Kyren Williams' agent. Both Snead and McVay have said they would love to get a deal done. They love Kyren. They want to keep him. We know the track record and history of the Rams with running back, that position particularly. So maybe just your thoughts on kind of what was said leading up to today's meeting, and your thoughts on if you think a deal gets done.
It was an interesting one when we were talking about him. There was thoughts that they might let him walk when we were talking about him earlier.
Yeah.
So, they're always going to come out and they're going to say, just like they do with Ernest Jones, oh, we're looking for, we should have this wrapped up shortly. We like this guy's great. Loved it, what he's done. They're going to say that every time, 100% of the time. So that means nothing. So, I think that, Drew Rosenhaus is one of the top agents for a reason. He's a tough negotiator. He's gets guys paid, and I think Kyren Williams deserves to get paid a lot. He's been on a very discounted, fourth round deal for his rookie contract. So they're going to be looking for a significant amount of money, and they're looking the Rams specifically said that they're looking for a win-win situation, which means within the money has to be within their parameters. Mm-hmm. Now, what does that mean? We'll never know until, the deal does or does not get done. But go look at Ernest Jones' contract, what he re-signed with the Seattle Seahawks. He's the 15th or so highest paid linebacker, $9.5 million. There could have been some movement in contract negotiations between when he was initially traded to when he was signed by the Seahawks, but that's a pretty low number for a guy like Ernest Jones, in my opinion. So, are they going to approach it like that? I don't know. And I don't know if they should. I don't know if they should pay him top dollar. I like him. I think Kyren Williams is great at what he does, which is extending a 2-yard to a 3-yard and a 4-yard to a 5-yard. But he's not been great at, those explosive game-changing runs that guys like Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey and those are the top guys because they can put you in scoring position. Mm-hmm. Kyren can put you into a first down position. So, I'm very curious to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that's not getting talked about a lot in terms of position to draft in the first round. Like if someone like an Amarian Hampton out of North Carolina falls to 26, who's considered widely as the second best back after Ashton Jeanty, I actually wouldn't be shocked if the Rams take him at 26. I wouldn't love that, but I wouldn't hate it either because of just their history tells us that they like, at least since Todd Gurley, they basically like to draft and replace. And so you then add Hampton to the backfield with, obviously Kyren Williams and then Blake Corum. You have an incredible 3 tailback room this year. And then after this year, Kyren Williams goes and hopefully for his sake gets paid somewhere and you move forward with Corum and Hampton moving forward. So again, I'm not saying I love that. I do like Kyren Williams a lot. Like you said, I think he does what he is meant to do very, very well. He's not your explosive game-breaking back, but he can block well. He can catch out of the backfield and he's a great team player. Like he's a team guy that's going to do what the team asks him to do. Probably the main reason why I don't think a contract gets done with the Rams is because his agent is Drew Rosenhaus. Yeah. I mean, Drew Rosenhaus, obviously one of the biggest agents in all of sports, known for getting record deals done. He's always going to demand top dollar for his clients, which is why he's one of the best agents in the business. But I feel pretty confident the Rams are going to say, this is what we value this position, take it or leave it. And unless Kyren goes to Rosenhaus and says, I want to stay here, I will take under maybe market value, I think he'll go hit free agency and get paid probably more elsewhere. So I'm not saying a deal won't get done, but to me, it's going to have to take that, like him saying, I will take less to stay with the Rams. And I don't know what that number looks like. Like, let's just say if his market dictates $10 million a year, I think the Rams will offer like 6.5 or 7. I think they'll be pretty under it because I think they realize what they did with Gurley and they will not go down that road again. I just don't think they'll do it, especially since they draft a running back every single year. So regardless if they take one in the first, which I know is probably unlikely, I do still think they take a back at some point in this draft because they pretty much have every single year.
Yeah.
Think of
I mean,
Darrell Henderson, Cam Akers, Kyren Williams, Blake Corum. Like they have, what, 4 of the last 5 years taken one.
So if they sign a contract around that $6 million mark, like you're saying, I think, he's that would put him between Tony Pollard and Devin Singletary in an average year situation. I think he's worth more than that. I think he could actually garner more than that.
Oh, I agree. Which is why I think he potentially will test the market, because I think he'll get more from another team. What's the? Yeah. I guess I could pull it up too. What is the top? Not like Saquon Barkley dollar, but
like Joe Mixon's making 9.9 basically per year on average. James Conner 9. James Conner's probably the closest comp. Like
yeah, that's a good one.
9.5.
9.5. Montgomery. How is Ramondre Stevenson getting 9? Talk about an overpay. Talk about an overpay. I know it's only like a short. I think it's like a 3 or 4 year deal, but dang. Chuba Hubbard getting 8.3. So I mean, yeah, Derrick Henry $8 million at a steal right there. I think his market value will be in that 8 to 11 range. Aaron Jones at 10, Josh Jacobs at 12. I think he's been top 4 in rushing the last 2 years. So I mean he'll be, just for those wondering. So Saquon's, and this is average per year. Saquon's 20.6 million per year. Christian McCaffrey 19. A big drop off to Jonathan Taylor at 14. Then Alvin Kamara 12.2, and Josh Jacobs 12, and Aaron Jones 10. So, I mean, of those backs, I think Kyren Williams fits right in there after Saquon and Christian McCaffrey, and maybe Jonathan Taylor as well. So maybe after the top 3. I just don't see the Rams giving 12 million plus for a running back.
Yeah. No, I doubt it.
So maybe looking at those figures, more than 6.5, maybe they'll be willing to go up to like 9, maybe even 10, but I can't see anything more than 10.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Kyren's situation, just playing on nothing and playing a lot, and putting his body out there, and the question is, you think about Saquon Barkley. Everybody thought overpay. He's been hurt. Comes in and just probably should have been MVP. Is Kyren Williams ever going to be in that conversation? You think about his 2023 campaign versus his 2024 campaign. He kind of needs flawless offensive line play to be his best self, and that they didn't have that last year. Bringing in Coleman Shelton, maybe they'll be back to their 2023, maybe not. Lots of questions, and in terms of positional value, running backs are still thought of as like you can kind of replace them. So I imagine that's still in their minds, and I think you're right. I think they're going to say, "Hey, we're gonna draft somebody. We got Blake Corum. We think we can do this without you. And we're offering you this much money." And yeah, I mean, I'm probably in your camp as well, that the deal's probably not going to get done.
Yeah, and it pains me because I love Kyren. I love him.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I don't think he adds that element of like game changer or game wrecker. And I know that sounds like disrespectful, but he's one of those guys that's very, very good at everything. He's not great at anything. And, that doesn't mean he doesn't have value, but it just means you can't give him that value of like the Saquon Barkley, the Jonathan Taylor, where there are, I mean, even right, the face of the offense is still Matthew Stafford. He's great, but no one will mistake Kyren Williams as being the face of the offense. Now, we talked a lot during the season that he actually kind of was the most integral part of the offense when the offense was struggling. When they were not operating well, it was kind of on Kyren Williams to actually move the football and have success. And if he touched the ball 25 plus times, they did things better. The question will be, in terms of money, is that because of Kyren Williams, or is that just the way the running back position operates within Sean McVay's offense? I don't have a clear answer for that, because I think Kyren Williams has done that very well when healthy. But we've seen other backs have success. And the question is, do they think they can just replace and replicate by just doing the same through the draft. I mean, Kyren Williams was a 5th-round pick, remember? It wasn't like he was their first-round pick. He was a 5th-rounder. And I still think I 100% believe if Rams decide to one day finally break this USC Trojans dry spell of drafting Trojans, like Woody Marks is a guy they can get in the mid rounds that can do absolutely what they want a running back to do in the offense. Block well, catch the ball, run between the tackles, and has good speed. Not game-breaking speed, but good speed. And then you just reset that contract and you have controllable contracts and you're not paying a running back double digits every year. Sucks, but that's just the way the running back position goes.
It's crazy to think that this, between the change in the scheme that they wanted to run and just kind of, some misses here and there, like the running back position has just been a revolving door, and injuries as well, of course, played into that. And, I wonder if they'll ever just settle on find a guy. I mean, they were in Christian McCaffrey. I have to point that out. They wanted to make that trade. And that just shows you the difference between Kyren Williams and a guy like Saquon or McCaffrey, which is like McCaffrey's not a running back.
Yeah,
he's a whole different beast that can put points on the board alone, and Kyren can't really do that. So the Rosenhaus, it's very fascinating.
Yeah. So it'll be, hey, if they get a deal done, I'll be happy. I'm just think that it'll be under market value and shows that he just really wants to stay here and be a Ram, which I would not fault him if he wants to go and get paid more, because especially running back, you get your rookie deal and you get one more contract. That's really it, outside of like a few outliers. It's even rare to get that second contract. Usually a high percentage is your rookie deal and that's it. So would not fault any player chasing, career so short, but especially would not fault a running back for trying to get the most that they can get. Let me ask you this real quick, and then we can kind of wrap up. I think we had one more. We're going to talk Tutu maybe too, but we haven't talked about this, and so I just quickly want to get your opinion. It came out last week on a podcast that then blew up everywhere, that Puka Nacua saying that he wants to retire by the time he's 30. And then Les Snead, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but he was on with Kay Adams and made the funny joke of like, oh, these Gen Zers are like a rock star, just a one-hit wonder, and they want to be done and retire. Just your thoughts on Nacua, and do you think he actually does retire at 30?
Yeah, I think he does. I'm going to take him at his word there. I think about Sean McVay and versus Kyle Shanahan a lot, just because there's so many similarities, ties that bind those two guys a lot. They came into the head coaching position at the same time. For whatever you want to say about San Francisco, what's not coming out of there is Kyle Shanahan going to retire and go into media? No. Kyle Shanahan is going to die coaching a football team. Yeah. Sean McVay's got other interests, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like he's probably a healthier person, that loves his wife and kid. I shouldn't say anything bad about Kyle Shanahan and how much he loves his wife and kids, but some people they've got other priorities, and that's fine. I mean, Jim Brown quit early, Barry Sanders quit early, Aaron Donald quit early, some guys, they got other priorities. Some guys, I would say this about Aaron Donald, put so much on the line and wanted to improve and didn't want to see any decline in their game. That's fine. I mean, it's 6 more years, guys. We got plenty of time with this guy.
Yeah. My one thought on it was, because it was like immediately this shock and like, oh no, like don't do it, Puka. And I think we've touched on this before, but when you think about it, like receivers have a huge drop off after 30. Like there is not many receivers that are still, I don't want to say good, but are definitely not their same level after 30. So in reality, like not only is he doing himself a favor to like pursue other things and whatnot, but it's not very likely that he will even be a highly sought after receiver after 30. I mean, can you think of, on the top of your head, I have a little list, but can you think of like who is, let's call it top 32. We'll just call it top 32. So just at least one, not necessarily on every team, because multiple are on the same team, but can you name any of the top 32 receivers that are older than 30? And I will tell you there are probably a couple, but can you think of it off the top of your head?
I mean, Devontae's old.
Devontae's 32.
Yeah.
And he's not what he once was, but he's still, obviously good. But yeah, I would say he's 32.
I mean, there's so many receivers that have come into the league in the last 3 or 4 years that like are just flooding that. So I can't really think of anybody off the top of my head.
So yeah, of like that are still probably considered top flight receivers, you have Devontae, 32. You have, I mean, I don't know what we would consider Cooper Kupp at this stage in his career, but he's 32. Mike Evans is 32.
Oh, wow. Sneaky old.
Yeah. And then Tyreek Hill is 31. That's it. That's the list. Cortland Sutton's 30. And, I think he's still a good receiver. Terry McLaurin, also 30. That's it. So I think the shock and awe of it got everyone all riled up, and it was a big media thing, and everyone was writing about it. But like in reality, that's kind of the end of a receiver's career anyway, for the most part. And he's considered one of the top receivers right now, but at 30, he might not be. And then like, do you want, like we said this before when in regards to like Julio Jones and some of these other Andre Johnson, some of these guys, like they kind of just like Des Bryant, like they just like not die. That's a strong word, but their careers just fade into the distance after 30. We can even put Cooper Kupp in that category now. So why not be like Calvin Johnson and be like, I'm retiring as like one of the best. And sure, people will question, did I have more in me? But I don't have to have those years of 300 yards, 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. I can just be like, yeah, my last year as a 1,000-yard receiver, and I called it good. And that's more of a reality.
Who wants to be the guy that's like jumping around to like, the Titans, and then you're playing for the Raiders, and then you're, the Texans or whatever. I think it's a great decision. I think he loves his family. I think he wants to do other things with his life. I love it. And it's 6 years. Like, I don't even remember what was happening on the Rams 6 years ago. Like Brandon Cooks was that a thing? I don't
Another
know.
one that just like fell off. Cooks obviously was he's still playing, I think.
yeah, he just got picked up the other day.
So I'm just saying that is the dude I think can play a lot longer than 30, but we've seen history tell us that it is very rare for a receiver to still be even a top 32 receiver after 30. And so I don't think it's much as shock and awe as it maybe originally sounded when people said it.
Yeah, no, everybody should take a deep breath on that one.
Yeah. And like you said, 6 more years. Let's just enjoy it. Donald was the interesting one because I think Donald still was the best at his position when he hung it up. Like he could still play when he retired before last year. Like he could have easily still played 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 years and been top 10 at his position. Receivers historically they aren't. So.
Yeah, and I often think about this quote. I can't remember who it's attributed to. I should definitely start looking that up because I think about it regularly, which is, you don't pay me to play on Sundays, you pay me to prepare to play on Sundays. Mm-hmm. Like that, like this is hard work. Keeping your body in shape, eating right constantly, probably not drinking too much. It's like, it's pretty austere life in a lot of ways for the top tier. I mean, I think there's plenty of guys that get by just on their sheer talent and kind of, fade away. But like that's not Aaron Donald. That's for sure. That's not Cooper Kupp either.
Yeah.
They put it all on the line.
It's interesting. I was talking with this. I was talking to Coach Rowe just earlier. He called me because USC got that big flip from Tutu from Oregon. He committed, so he was just calling to catch up on that. And we randomly are on the topic of like high school and college, like football. There's no real off season. You have all your off season programs. You have all your there's a lot of like rules about practicing and in person, but your weight programs, you have summer camps, so you're there. I remember being in high school and being in the gym at like 4:30, 5 in the morning before class in the off season, running routes and whatnot. Like the NFL is so different with the NFLPA because they really do have a lot more time off. Like they get like a solid months of time off. But if you're not the consummate professional of keeping your body in shape, of eating right, of training with private trainers, because then you're off, you're not really getting the training of like the team, then that's going to end your career. At least like someone else is going to pass you by. So there's a lot more, so much to it, even in the off season, that is not like high school and college where it's like, hey, if you want to be on the team, you got to show up here. You got to be out these 2 days, got to do this. Like you're kind of on your own, and it's up to you to have that discipline, that TB12 mentality, if you will, of like, if I want to be great, like it's up to me. My team's just going to move on. Like they'll just find someone else like that. We're talking Kyren Williams, right? They're just like, oh yeah, we're not going to pay you. We'll go find someone else. It's up to me to make sure I'm still in top shape in all these off seasons. So it's a different animal.
Yeah, 100%.
So, well, anything else to add on this? I know we probably had a few topics we didn't even get to, but
Havenstein had shoulder surgery. McVay called it a cleanup. He uses that a lot. Says it's going to help him. Actually, he's going to be ready for training camp. Talked a little bit of Bo Limmer as well. Kind of some communication issues, and a big reason they brought Coleman Shelton back in. There was some more Tutu talk. We didn't get into it, and we don't need to. We've probably spent enough time thinking about that guy, but just McVay's out there just saying, I'm gonna get him involved. Look at what he did when Cooper Kupp was out of the lineup when he was injured. I'll keep an open mind. I'll keep an open mind to it. On the
spot. Do you think his lack of usage falls more on McVay or Stafford?
I think it's probably Stafford. I was trying to get some data on this, and I didn't get too far on it, but there was one game where Jordan Whittington was targeted 10 times with 7 catches, and Tutu Atwell was on the field too. I mean, there is a certain type of receiver that Stafford likes to target, and they're usually guys that are quite open. I think is probably the thing that ties everything together. You think back to Allen Robinson. He wasn't a separation guy. He was kind of like a jump ball guy, and he didn't get the ball. You think about small quarterbacks as well. Like sometimes they can't see over the the offensive line. Maybe they just can't see him. I mean, how many 5'8" receivers have there been in the modern era that have been dominant 1, 2, or 3 receivers? Atwell lost his job to Demarcus Robinson, who's not really a separation guy, much more of a jump ball guy as well. But he lost. I mean, I don't know why they're mashing this button trying to make it work.
Stop trying to make fetch work, right? As the great Mean Girls say. But they're trying to make fetch happen, and McVay went back to the well. Going to get him involved.
$10 million too.
I tend to agree with you. I think that's probably on Stafford. McVay is always going to take the blame, and will always say it's on him. But you can only script things so much, then it's on your quarterback to who he's going to throw it to. Now there obviously are probably more creative ways that force Tutu the ball, like we've seen in the past, some jet sweep stuff, some different motions that he gets the ball right away out of the gun. There's probably more of that they can do, but on straight just 3 5-step drops where you have 3 or 4 receivers out and running routes, then it's kind of up to the receiver. Obviously, you have your route progressions and whatnot, and you have your hot route that's going to be your go-to one at the beginning, and then if that's not open, you go from there. And maybe Tutu's always the 4th option the way it's drawn up. But yeah. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I'll keep it open mind as well.
Well, and it reminds me of kind of the Bobby Brown discussion we were having earlier when he was like, all I need is the opportunity to have pass rush snaps, and then I could show you what I could do as a pass rusher. It's you're not getting those snaps for a reason. He's not getting the target. There's got to be a reason. I mean, he's had 500 yards, which is, fine, I guess.
Yeah.
And he's got Jordan Whittington. We'll see what happens with that. Is Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. And I mean, if he can stay on the field and something gets knocked loose between Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, it could be successful. And that's what I've always thought. He's got a good catch radius and tremendous speed. Figure it out.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
I don't know how they don't take at least one deep shot every game. With his speed, you got to take one every game. Why not?
Yeah. Is he getting knocked off his routes? Is he getting derailed? Because, he plays more on the outside than he does in the slot.
Yeah.
Which might change now that Cooper's not there and Devontae.
I'm not comparing him to Tyreek Hill. He is, and that I guess that's the 1 5'8" receiver who's being dominated is Tyreek Hill.
Is he 5'8"? No, he's not.
Or maybe he's 5'10", actually. I think he's bigger than everyone thinks. So I'm not comparing to Tyreek Hill, but Tyreek Hill will do routes that everyone know is coming, and they still do it. Tua Tagovailoa doesn't even have the arm strength that Patrick Mahomes does. He underthrows him every time, but they will throw the deep route to Tyreek Hill every single game. more than once typically. He is obviously better than Tutu Atwell. But you drafted Tutu for the speed. Why are you not at least trying that once a game? We've watched every game. It's not like they're playing too high safety every single snap. Like there's easy ways. Sean McVay is smart enough to get a way to get a safety to come down to the box. Then you have that side of the field open. Just try it every game. That would be worth it. If you try it every game and he catches half of them, he made his $10 million worth it.
Love it. Perfect.
There you go. So we'll end with that fiery diatribe to end the show. Thank you all for hanging out with us. This is the Ram Skinny on the LAFB Network for Skinny T. I am Ryan Dyrud. Everyone have a great week. We'll talk to you all later in the week with some more updates and more draft talk. Everyone be well, be safe. Talk to you all soon.